Hi friends, my name is Suran Sharma and you're watching channel Career Talks. Today's video is going to be very interesting as I'm going to share my interview experience with Shell along with questions which was asked to me. Also, I observe few questions are repetitive, so please prepare these questions well. Friends, at the end of the video, if you like my efforts, please give me your blessings in the form of like. Your one like is a big motivation for me. Don't forget to subscribe and press bell icon as I'm going to post few other real life interview questions from other companies. So without wasting more times, let's get started. So friends, there are going to be 3 rounds of interview. First round is a technical round, so it's going to be a telephonic one, and it may ends between somewhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes. The second round going to be again a technical one if you clear the first round. Along with there is one more round called behavioral interview. So this is something different with the Shell. You will not have this kind of interview in any other company. At least I have not seen this kind of interview. And the third one is a HR round. So there will be one person from the previous round. So this is the way that Shell interview is being structured. So friends, first question is, what prompted you to leave your current organization and apply for Shell? So for first part of the question, you can give your own reasons. It can be personal, professional. Basically, they want to know, did you leaving for good reason? And what are your work values? So your reason for leaving a position can say a lot about you. So be little prepared on this front, like why you want to leave your current organization. For second part of the question, I will suggest to go to Shell website. In fact, before giving any interview, it's always good to visit the website of that particular company. So you can mention something like like why you want to apply for a Shell. So you should do some groundwork about Shell. Like, so I came to know that Shell is a very fast growing company in India. So I just mentioned something like that Shell is growing, and with that comes a lot of opportunity to grow professionally, and it's a place to implement and execute my learnings, etc. So prepare this kind of some answers beforehand. You can expect this kind of questions. So question number 2 was, what you find attractive in this role? Do you feel you are right candidate for this role? So guys, this kind of questions test your confidence. For first part, by heart the complete job description. You need to blend it with Shell organization core values, that is honesty, integrity, and respect for people, and you will get your answer. In second part, try to demonstrate your personality, add few good attribute, skills, qualities of a good Scrum Master. So I have taken these points from the job description itself. So for example, a Scrum Master should have an outcome focused mindset coupled with a strong appreciation and commitment to agile ways of working, a hands-on approach to solving problems. So I think these are very basic questions and you won't find any challenges to prepare for this kind of queries. So third question is, how do you see your career develop in next 3 to 5 years beyond the role as a Scrum Master? So basically they want to see your future plan. Are you flexible enough for the organization? What do you think about your own career? So you can say that Shell is like an umbrella. Under Shell there are like a number of different organizations. So you can find number of opportunities to grow in Shell. You can mention that what stream you want to excel. So you can give some example like you want to be an enterprise agile coach, or you want to move into some leadership role, or you can also say that you are flexible and as and when opportunity will come, you will decide. So be ready with this kind of questions. It's been asked many times in different interviews. Okay, so now next question is, what is your key responsibilities as an Scrum Master? So guys, this is your moment to shine. Be prepared, explain about your responsibilities, give some background about your current project. You will surprise that you will get couple of questions, follow-up questions after that, whatever you are going to explain to them. So for example, you can mention all these things like you are, as a Scrum Master, you are facilitating daily stand-ups, iteration planning, sprint reviews, a lot of retrospectives and all. You can mention that you are guiding the team in terms of estimating, all those best practices. You can mention all those things, right? Especially if you can manage something like that, you are managing the project conflicts, challenges, all those dynamic business requirements to keep the operation floating. So you need to mention all these things. Take around 5 minutes, good time to explain about your current role and responsibilities. Give some background about your current project which you are doing. So next question is about safe. Okay, so I am a safe certified. So they asked me like, you are a safe certified, so how you are going to apply scale agile in your organization, in your project, right? So to start with, give them some few advantage scenarios, like why where safe is useful. you know Tell them something like, that safe allows organization to visualize the big picture, by mapping roles, responsibilities, and activities required for software development. So give them some key terminologies, give them some key words, like for example, centralized decision making and all those things. It's always good to go and check this scaleagileframework.com website. So you will get all those queries, all your answers, over here. It's a very good website to visit, scaleagileframework.com. So just visit that particular website and you will know like how you have to apply scaled agile. Okay, so it's just again take around 5 minutes to explain them first of all. So this question can be asked in many ways. Sometimes people will ask what is the difference between a scrum and a safe, what's the difference and all those things. So be prepared, be a little bit flexible, uh, do some deep dive into safe, what's the difference between safe and scrum, and less, and all those different kind of skilled kind of methodologies. The next question is, let's say your team is distributed across different geographies, so how you are going to work with them. So believe me friends, this question has been asked in many different interviews, so please be prepared well with this kind of question. So the other important thing is Shell is very strict with the work-life balance of their employees. So please do not say anything like my teams are working on weekends, or I will make my team to stress and all those things. So it will go against you. So be a little careful. So for me, the right answer for handling this kind of question is that there are three important ingredients to make a distributed team successful. So first is the team itself, the tool, and the process. Okay, so you have to ensure that trust is the key with the distributed team. Okay, so if you not trust your team members, it will be very difficult for you as a scrum master or as a team to grow and succeed. So you can mention that you can encourage your team members to communicate more, use written communication for important decisions, verify, reiterate your understanding, and all those things. So you can always start with this with the team, like what is this team is about. So this is the first part of that answer. The other important thing is about the software and the tool part. So in a distributed team, you will need the right tool to make sure everyone is stay on the same page, and so that everyone can continue to execute without a physical presence. So nowadays everyone have MS Teams, Skype for business, and all those tools. Okay, so you can mention that all those things, whatever you are using in your organization. So that will cover your tool part. And the third important thing is the process part. So you can always mention that something like what kind of different processes which you guys are using in your current organization to make it this distributed way of working a successful one. So you can basically tell us about how part, like how we are doing it. So processes doesn't mean that it should be very lengthy and all those things, but just mention like how you will as a scrum master making the life of your team easy. Okay, so I have just jotted down few things. So for example, a culture of accountability. Okay, so people often ask me like, how do you know if your employees are actually working or not? And the easy way to know this is our daily and weekly updates. So every person on the team post an update to Jira about what they done that particular day, and what they are going to ship, any if they are going to ship any piece of code for that particular week, right? So what they are working on for that particular day and next day and that particular week. So you need to make sure that your team members are updating whatever the tool you guys are using, either it's a Jira or version 1, because now the challenge is if one guy is logging off the day, the other guy is maybe after 1 or 2 hours they are logging at their system in some other remote location. So they don't have that kind of update. So it's always good to update your tool on day-to-day basis. So you have to ensure that that process has to be followed properly. Okay. The other thing which I have highlighted is automate anything that can be automated. So your lot of time will be saved. You will be surprised, a small thing if you can automate. For example, if there is some kind of release is going to be happen or some deployment is going to be happen, so try to automate all those things. It will save a lot of your time. And again, I will use this practice of weekly one-to-one. So I will try to interact with one of my team member one-to-one. So you will came to know a lot of things, lot of pain areas, lot of challenges which your team members are facing. Okay. So it's always good to have face-to-face conversation, either you do on WebEx or Zoom or whatever the tool you guys are using. So these are just like 3 examples which I have mentioned. You can mention a lot of things. So for example, you can mention that there is a something kind of overlap between when one shift is over, and other team members are coming, or there is some kind of handshake happen. And as a Scrum Master, I will ensure that at least there is a common timeline around 3 to 4 hours, so that all other team members will interact. So mention something like that, with your real life experience. That will always count. It's always matter. So let's move to the next question. Okay, let's move to the next question. So this question is, I thought is pretty easy, with that kind of experienced person. So next question, they asked me about like explain what happened in sprint planning and how it different from PI planning. So I thought like this question was pretty easy in terms of explaining and all. So what I have done, instead of straight away telling them like what is sprint plan is about, what is PI plan is about, I have just taken few minutes to explain like what has happened before sprint planning. So how I as a Scrum Master will does the sprint planning preparation. So if you tell them like that, they will know that you are really experienced Scrum Master. You know your job, what you are doing. So if you give, so see the guys, the thing is maybe they might have asked the same question to a number of different candidates, right? Because you are not the only one, who are giving the interview for the same position, right? So the way you will explain one of the question, it may makes a lot of difference. Trust me, guys. Some of the times the interviewer don't have much time. Suddenly they will get some resume and 2 3 resume at a time, and they have to on the fly they have to take the interviews. So it's not for shell, but I'm just telling you. So it's always, if you feel like this question is easy for you to answer, please give some kind of background. Okay. So I have started with this like, okay, as a preparatory of a sprint planning, I will review the product roadmap and vision with my PO. What exactly are we on track and or not? I will ask my team members to update the board and focus on moving user stories to done. As a Scrum Master, I will review and do the retrospective before my sprint planning meeting. So I will groom product backlog along with my PO. I will facilitate that particular backlog grooming session. So I will make sure that every user story has a clear priority, is fully formed. It will suffice the definition of ready criteria, and all those. It's basically that user story, the product backlog is up to date, and so that my team will do the proper estimation. And then important thing is about the choose a sprint goal. Okay. So it's always good if you can come up with 1 or 2 option of sprint goal, so that your team members can choose between. So ideal scenario, your team will come up with the sprint goal in association with PO, but then as a backup you should also be prepared, because you already had a session with the PO, so like what this sprint goal is about for this particular sprint. So, as a Scrum Master, you should work with your PO to create a sprint backlog. There should be enough for user stories to fill 2 sprints. Ideally, it should be 2 sprints, but if it's 1 sprint, also it's okay. So, give some background about what you will do before the sprint planning. So it will obviously stand out you from the other candidates. So let's continue. Okay, so give them like one or two liner about the sprint planning meeting, like what exactly will happen in the sprint planning, right? So you can mention that during the sprint planning meeting, the product owner described the highest priority feature to the team. The team asked enough questions so that they can turn a high-level user story of the product backlog into a more detailed task of the sprint backlog. So you give some kind of one or two liner definition, like whatever you understand by sprint planning, and then start telling them like what as a scrum master you are doing in that sprint planning, right? They are more interested in your role as a scrum master, what is you are doing in that sprint planning, right? Because sprint planning is more about POs and team. So what you are doing over there, so you need to mention all those things. Okay, so you have to you can mention few points like as a scrum master I have to ensure that my entire team is present for the meeting, right? You can tell that you will discuss about the spillover, so there are few user stories which are going to be not completed. So you can ask team like why it's not completed, is there any kind of dependencies or something like that, whether you're going to continue this user story in the next sprint, or it's going to be again go back to the product backlog. So you can ask those kind of questions during the sprint planning meeting, right? And the most important thing, to define the sprint goal. So as a sprint master, you will always ensure that team will come up with the sprint goal. So basically, the two output or two artifacts from the sprint planning meeting, one is the sprint goal and the other is the sprint backlog, right? So I have also underlined them. So emphasizes on all these small things, that as in what's the outcome of the sprint planning about and all those things. You can also mention like what you are doing. So you can mention like I will create the new sprint in my particular tool, that can be anything, XYZ tool which you are using. And you can also tell that you will discuss the goal and team capacity. You will always challenge your team whether this particular goal is realistic or not. If not, can we lower down the scope? So you will do all those kind of discussion. You will always do those check and balance with your team, right? And then you can discuss about the proposed sprint backlog. So you will allow your team to pick user stories and tasks that match the sprint goal and capacity, and you can discuss the definition of done also in the sprint planning. Now this definition of done may be same for all those different sprints, but then it's always good to revisit your definition of done. Is any changes is required in definition of done for this particular sprint and all. So it's always good to go back and check your definition of done in the sprint planning. Then you can always tell like that team will break down each user stories into individual tasks. So as a scrum master I have to make sure that each task has as much information as possible. And you can also ask like whether the scope of, is there any scope for a team to work with some unexpected issues and all. So you can always tell like as a scrum master I will cap like 10 to 15% of capacity for any unexpected bugs or issues or some production issues and all. So you can mention all those things. So if some kind of bugs will come or some issue will come, is there any scope for picking any technical depth user story? So you can tell all those things, that what's the important of scrum master, what you are doing in that sprint planning meeting. Okay. Okay, so now let's come to a difference between a sprint planning and a product increment planning. Okay, so you can say that this program PI planning is a cadence-based face-to-face event that serve as a heartbeat of the agile release train art, and aligning all the teams on the art to a shared mission and vision. So this definition I have taken from the same website which I have shown you, and you should by heart this that what is PI planning is all about, right? So the important thing is they want to understand like whether you understand what is Scrum and what is Safe, and how these both are different. So they want to see whether you know the bigger picture or not. Okay, so if you really work on Scale Agile framework, explain them a little bit about what are the different activities which you will do in a in a Safe when you are working with Safe with the PI planning, and what are the different activities which you do during the sprint planning. So because they asked me the difference, so I just mentioned about the difference, like okay, sprint planning is a part of Scrum framework, PI planning is a part of Safe framework. You can consider sprint planning as a subset of PI planning. And I also tell them like okay, sprint planning is done for a single sprint, whereas PI planning is done for 4 sprints together to get a vision of a business value. Sprint planning is done once in either 2, 3, 4 weeks or at the beginning of the sprint, depending upon the sprint length. PI planning is done once in 8 to 12 weeks for 4 sprint together. Sprint planning is done with a single Scrum team, where PAI planning is done across all the teams. So these are the very basics difference which I have told them. But then, as I mentioned you, it's always good if you share your real life experience, like what exactly will happen in PI planning. So yeah. So let's move to the next question. So friends, next question is, tell me about a time you had a conflict on a team project. So believe me friends, this question has been asked 9 out of 10 times if you are giving a Scrum Master interview. So but why interviewers ask about conflict? So Scrum Master job require you to get along with a different type of people. So this type of question can catch you off guard. So nobody likes to talk about conflict at work. So it's a behavioral question about a conflict that forces you to talk about a less than delightful situation. So it can be very difficult to come up with a good example on the fly, and even more difficult to describe in a way that present you in a favorable light. So this is why it's very important to prepare an example in advance using the star format. Now this star format, I really find it very useful, and it's talk about situation, task, action and result of the situation you are describing. So whenever you are giving any real life answer, any real life scenarios based on your experience, always try to utilize this method, star. So let's see what it is about. So you can always give some background about the situation and task. So you can briefly describe the context for the conflict, provide just enough background information for the context. So it should be very clear and precise. So for example, I have taken one example that team was managing the creation of a new discount fee module for an online website, and we were on a very tight deadline because we had to have delivered in time for a Black Friday sale. So you might be aware about that there is a very big Black Friday sale every year on November 27th. So the UI designer which we have hired, which were working on that particular project, is a shared resource, and that was assigned, and he's a very good UI designer, but unfortunately he missed that deadline that was assigned to him. And as a Scrum Master, when I approached him like why it's been missed, so he was very upset and angry on me. So you can see, like, these bullets provide a good context. It was very important and complex project, the tight deadline, so you have set the context. And the designer not only missed a deadline but also show anger. So basically this is a real conflict that could have led to a disaster if you not handled properly. So I have explained a little about the situation and what is the conflict is all about. Now let's move to the approach part. How you are going to approach this kind of conflicts. So talk about the key action that you have took. So as a Scrum Master, whenever you are giving your example, you will mention like what action you have taken. So basically the idea is you should be focused on resolving, like how you have resolved this disagreement, in a more professional and a productive way. So this should be your approach. So like I have mentioned that okay, I was taken aback by his response, but I remained calm. So that's an important attribute, like you should be remain calm and control, okay, as a Scrum Master. So I acknowledge that the deadlines were tight, and explain again the reasoning and the importance of having the UI design ready for the Black Friday sale. So after when I told all this priority and all, then he was a little relaxed. He saw that I was not attacking him, and then he was open up and he told me about like all of the different other project which he is working and how overburdened he was. So I asked him if there was any other way that I could help him, to come up with some kind of solution. So you can see, like, as a Scrum Master, you are providing some kind of help, okay, so that you will come up with some solution. So then, like, eventually we agreed that it will be really helpful if his manager had a better understanding of his important and time consuming how important and the time consuming this project was. So basically, it's all about setting the right priority. So then we decided we would speak with her together, and then we went to his project manager, and then she ended up assigning some of his other projects to another designer, and which took some of the pressure off of him. Okay, so you can see, like, in this way, like, Scrum Master shows that he stayed calm under pressure, he tackled the issue in hand, and was able to persuade others. So both the designer and his manager, was agreed to his point. So this is what you have done, the approach part. This is how you will complete this approach part. And as a result, so when whatever you have done, right? So interview also, every good interview story includes a happy ending. So if you can express, like, okay, what are the benefit out of it, some positive outcome of your action, it will be always good. So for example, you can mention that, okay, as a result, the designer was able to focus on the UI design and met the deadline, and he might have said sorry to you, and he thanked me for my help, something like that you can mention. And then the end result is we are able to successfully complete that particular module in time, and we receive a compliment both from our internal management and from client. So that's the result of it, right? So you have described the resolution of the conflict, the positive effect on the relationship with the designer, and the business outcome. So all these things are included in this particular answer. So try to be a little bit more elaborative. Use this STAR method, is really helpful. So I hope, guys, you will prepare well with this kind of scenario-based questions. So guys, thank you for watching. These are the 8 questions which I have covered in this video. So if you like my efforts and if you learn anything new, please like, subscribe, and comments. And please do press bell icon, as I am in progress for creating more real life interviews videos. So this is just the first part of a video because it's a telephonic round only. And I think these questions, though, are a little tricky, but relatively easy compared to the second round, which I'm going to cover in second video. So if you want to see the second part, please hit the bell icon. So whenever I will going to create, you will get the notification and you can watch that second part as well. Apart from that, I will create a few more videos with my real life interview experience with the different companies. So thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day.